Hello everyone, this is Jason again from LMGI, continuing with the SolidEdge fundamentals. This episode is all about SelectionManager. Remember, selection is key with SolidEdge synchronous technology. Let's start with some simple concepts. Selecting one round, because rounds have an inherent value in them, I simply select the edit definition handle, or the leader sometimes I call it. It presents me with a little editor for the value. These three buttons, the default will be feature faces. What that means is at the time the original user placed that round here, round number 12, these are all the faces that they all the edges that they rounded. So all feature faces, I guess technically it should say all feature edges, whatever. If you wanted to do just the one, you would change to the first. Now you see that it does more than just that one round. That's just because it kind of has to. It wouldn't. You'd end up with like a sharp cliff right there, and that's kind of just the way it works. And then the last option, the Selection Manager, it will simply go and find all of the rounds in the entire model that match that value. So either way, the choice is up to you. Single element by feature or the entire model. There's also a more advanced, you'll do Shift Spacebar, or if you come up here and you look at the select tool, you'll see that there's a Selection Manager mode. If you hover it, it says Shift Spacebar, and you get this little green plus stuck to your mouse, and what it's waiting for is you to click some face to kind of give it a hint as to what you want to select, and then it will produce this dialogue. Now I'm not a huge fan of this use box selection, so I usually turn that off right away. It's kind of an advanced way to use a volumetric cube to limit the search scope of the tool, so I turn that off to begin with to try to keep things simple. And so for example, coplanar, it's really nice the way it previews before I even click. So those would be coplanar faces that it would pick for me. Parallel, opposing, so those are parallel opposing, symmetric about. So it can be a very powerful way to select individual faces. I think one of the most common ones that I use, if I want to have it pick an entire, like recognize that as a cutout, and then I just tap spacebar, and you see where it leaves me is just simply selected the geometry for me. I could have easily picked those three faces, but that's an example of Selection Manager. So possibly you want to just delete that area, and that would be a great way to do that. So that's just a little taste of Selection Manager. I also might mention here reordering rounds. I like to mention things more than once. So if I click this and I'll tap spacebar and come over here and grab the other, I'm going to click these two rounds. Now, because this is synchronous modeling, there really isn't a history. You can drag and drop features around in the tree and it has no impact on the model. These are really just face sets. So in order to change the sequence that something was done, there's a few different ways to do it. You can detach geometry, but in the case of rounds, this is a very fast and powerful way just to select the rounds. It's usually at an intersection where you would get a different solution if you did them in different orders. Otherwise it won't really do anything when you execute the reorder rounds. There's only two solutions typically for this type of thing, so really you could just click it again, and you can see you can right click right there. You can just, after you pick it, you can right click out in space and it will give you the other solution. So super fast. You don't need to go delete a bunch of geometry. Just right click and reorder those rounds.